can I put this as a question and say, as a group, is this where you want to be? At full value for 23, 24? Or are you nervous about that and would like to be at some other value point? I don't want to go above it. I do not believe that we're in a period where you need to hedge your bet and get out ahead of this. I think that would be a mistake. I didn't bring anything to suggest that. But if you wanted to go below it, this is the time to speak, because we can still execute on that and not slow the program down.
The most recent numbers of them are well, everyone knows real estate can go up and down, but for the most part, over time, it continues to go up. So there may be a slowed down tick here at some point, but I don't see that does us any benefit to stay under. I mean, to get to the most current numbers, I think would benefit us the most.
I agree.
And take us the furthest down the road before we gotta do this again.
I agree. It does get you more mileage out of the program and the cost and expense of doing it. I agree completely with that. The other thing is, in my experience doing this, the number of times that we've done it and then in a very short order regretted it and thought it was too high is once, I think. Maybe twice. In all the years I've been doing this, somehow the real estate market generally either goes flat or goes up. And sometimes over a long period it'll go down, but it's usually kind of gradual, and it's usually predicated on like desperations, like short sales and foreclosures. If you think back to 08, 09, those things, that was, the market was going down because there were so many short sales and foreclosure sales that were going at really low prices. And then a lot of people just pulled off the market because they didn't want to take the low price. So everything did eventually kind of come down in value, but it wasn't as much as it seemed at first if you took the noise out of the statistics. If you took the short sales and foreclosures out. Now, if you are a person who had to short sale or had to get a foreclosure, that was an absolutely horrible, brutal time period. And if you were a person who had to sell your house, you were competing with those in the market. But that stabilized, and the numbers were down, but they weren't tremendously down. And what'd that go from 09 to 13 maybe? But it didn't happen overnight, and it kind of gradually moved, and then it started back up again. So I agree. I think we're suggesting we run the 2023 to 2024 numbers at this 100%. The other thing is, keep in mind, there's been change from the beginning of 23 to now. If we just ran the 24s, we wouldn't be at 100%. We'd be a little below it. So we're almost by definition a little below anyway, but we're not below the 23 to 24 time window, but we're a little below the 24 time window because those numbers are all higher than 23. So built into this, because we used a bit over a year time window, is a tiny buffer to not get the peak of the market. So I think it's the sweet spot. And you were a big enough town with enough activity, so we had enough sales so that I felt pretty comfortable. Sometimes we're in towns that are so small and have so few sales that I just can't use one year. There's just not enough data. But you actually have quite a few sales. For the size of your town in particular, you're a pretty dynamic town. So I feel comfortable that the data is giving us accurate readings.
I'm also in favor of the 100%. Valuation, and my question is, when will people be able to, find out what their assessed value is?
Excellent. So, page 13. Page 13 is the proposed valuation notice. So right now, we're at the stage of the program where I am getting your approval for the schedules we've set up. The next step is we do a thorough, upside down, right side up, inside out review where we just spend weeks going over property by property, looking for things that we might have got wrong, looking for things that we might overlook. If there are significant changes on an individual property, we look at why. If we can't answer that, we then find out why. So we've got a bunch of review work to do. But once we're done that, we will get the spending, all of the stuff that you would normally give me for committing taxes, all the monies you need to raise. We will then estimate a rate for the purposes of this program. We then will generate these notices with an estimated rate on the bottom, your estimated tax, the tax value, the one we just came up with for you, and then projecting out your tax. And we mail that to every taxpayer in town. At that time, when those go in the mail, also all of this new information goes on our website the same time. So anybody in town gets a letter, they get their own value and a projection of their tax and a projected rate, and then they can go online and look at any value they want in town. They all go live at the same time. Now, normally in Limerick, we commit taxes that first day of September. I have been told that it would be better to do it earlier this year. So I am working on the thought that we're going to be doing this at the latest that second week in July, and possibly earlier if we can fit it into the schedule. And when I say fit it into the schedule, the three things that we need to do is we need to do our reviews, we need to get the budget data, because without that we can't move forward to notice, and we need to schedule when we can be here to have meetings with people who might have complaints. So that requires a little bit of scheduling. We got to find when this room's available. We got to negotiate. We got to figure that out with our other jobs that we have going. We generally do that. Here it might be 3 days or maybe 4, depends on how we schedule that. We have a lot of people, so even if we have a very robust response to the new values, we can handle a lot of meetings because we've got a lot of bodies and a lot of people with experience. So in a really early launch, sometime in that latter half of this month, like sometime between the 20th and the 30th, maybe we do review hearings here, and that puts us on a fast track to get you guys tax bills out earlier in July. If that doesn't fit, maybe we do our hearings the week after July 4th, and then wrap that up as quick as we can after that, hoping for maybe an August tax bill. Still a month earlier than you normally do it, but that's a little bit unknown right now. We kind of got to figure that out as we go, but those would be the 2 time windows. It's probably worth having a conversation about when we have those appointments. So historically, and I mean 5 years ago and earlier, we always did one on Saturday. And then as email rose up as being the preferred method of interacting with us, and face-to-face meetings went down, and people stopped coming to the Saturday meetings. So we'd schedule our staff and we'd show up and there'd be nobody making appointments, or, it fell apart. So it's a balancing act on, for people who live in town, Saturday's usually not required, because we will do some mornings and some evenings. We typically will do a day or two from 9 to 2, and a day or two from 2 to 7. Commuters can come in from that 4 to 7 time window. People who want to get it done early can come in one of the 9 to 2 days. What we've regularly done is in communities that have lakes and some weekend people will have that early one be on a Monday, so people can maybe just stay over Sunday night, come see us Monday morning, head home. We would need your approval on, 1, do we or do we not need to do a Saturday? And then 2, what do you think the balance is between early and late? Like, we could do them all 2 to 7. That gives you a whole bunch of evenings. Commuters could easily do it. But what we've discovered is that there's a lot of people who don't. They want to do it in the morning. So especially that first day. We just have a lot of people who want to get in the door right in the beginning on the first day. So we usually staff for that, and we're ready to go. So theoretically, we do like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday maybe, to give a few days to let people move around a bit, and maybe do a morning and 2 evenings. I mean, those can be changed right up to the very end, but we need you guys to have, be aware of the pattern. You're not that big a town. You're like, what, 3,400 parcels, something like that. I can't imagine we need more than 4 days. We might start with 3, and then we can always expand if we need to. Typically, we just have more people come on the days that we have. But that's all stuff that we can sort of wait, and we can wait a week or two and see what the timing's going to be, and then bring that back up. So we don't do it during the 4th for obvious reasons. People don't want any part of that. So, so it'll either be before that or just after that. And I'd also ask you to read this notice. We use a pretty standard notice. If there's anything in there that rubs you wrong or you really just can't stand, then let us know, because we can edit it. But we edit it here and there. It morphs over time a bit, but it's been pretty reliable. The most important message in the notice is, here's what your projected tax is, right? Because that's where the rubber hits the road. The next most important part of the notice is that people realize we're meeting with them for them to tell us about their property. We are not meeting with them to convince them that we are good at what we do, or to prove to them that everything we did is great. You know, we've been doing this a really long time. We've been doing it here for a really long time. One of the reasons you've hired us to do it is that we've been here before and done it. We're not perfect, but we're reliable, and we strive to get better each time. So the average taxpayer, we just don't have the time or the bandwidth to sit and explain to them, you know, how I learned over the last 30 years to do what I do, or some of the intricate details of how I calibrate the computer model. It's not a we tell you what we did and defend what we did. We don't defend it to the individual taxpayer. We ask them to give us doubt. Give us something that would make us wonder why. Show us neighbors of yours that have different values that then we will explain that if there's discrepancies. But we don't do an explanation of the whole program. And we don't provide our certifications of being certified assessors. The time for that was back when you were hiring us. It's not us and the individual taxpayer. And we also want to make good use of their time. The other thing that we do is we have a meeting and we meet with people, and then we follow up on whatever we cover in the meeting, and we do that diligently. And the reason we do it diligently is because if we can fix it before it's a tax, it's less work than if it becomes a tax and we have to run it through the abatement process. That's a lot more work for us. So obviously, we have no vested interest in just ignoring people and not listening to reasonable complaints. We have a vested interest in fixing them. That said, we can't give away the farm. At some point, you're relying on us, if we think the value's right, to say, no, we think the value's right. There's no doubt that there'll be a number of people who come and do the review. There'll be people who are still unhappy, and they will file for abatement. And then they may or may not be granted abatement, and there will be some who aren't granted abatement who will probably appeal that. It's the nature of the business. The number that end up doing that, I think, will be very small. Historically, they have been very small. We have not had that many, but we have had appeals that go to the county commissioners. But it's part of it, and we carry those all the way through for you. That's still our job as part of this project, right through to the county commissioners. So we don't expect a lot of that, but there will be some. Another comment I want to make is, when the numbers go out, first I'd recommend that if people come directly to you with complaints about value, recommend that they interact with us. I mean, if we don't know about it, we can't fix it. And if we know about it, we might fix it if it's indeed broken. The other thing is, get comfortable with the website and look stuff up. It's not uncommon for somebody to come to you and say, this is totally unfair, mine tripled. And you'll think, wow, I don't know of hardly anybody who tripled. And then you'll go look on the website and you realize that, no, their value went up by 80% and their tax went up by 24%. Where's the tripling? And then you'll find out, oh no, I meant the land value. Or they'll say, oh no, this other part tripled. Or what the value they put on my garage tripled. That's not the same as having your taxes triple. I'm not saying that something didn't triple. I'm just pointing out that it really helps to track the big numbers, look at the bottom, start with tax differential, and then value differential. And then if we need to go further, you can, on the website, it shows all the detail. So my advice is, if you get engaged with taxpayers, look it up. And if it is truly as bad as it seems, encourage them to reach out to us, because that's how we fix those things. Hopefully there won't be many of those, but if you're talking to a taxpayer and you look at it and you think this doesn't make any sense, they've got to reach out to us.